a disturbing conversation yesterday with General Barry McCaffrey, a guy I love and respect. I don't know if it'll let me say that I love General McCaffrey, but General McCaffrey warned before the war. He was like one of the only guys out there saying, we need more troops. Certainly on this network, we need more troops. The White House kicked him around. Of course, we found out that the general was right. He came on yesterday and he said the National Guard was going to be crippled. It may be a fatal blow, this war. Well, he wouldn't say that about the Army. He can't say that about the Army. But you look at the men and the women in the Army, the Marines, it is crippling their readiness because the troop rotations are absolutely devastating. And I want to bring on Major General John Batiste and talk to him about this and see just how bad it is for the Army, because we know, again, the National Guard just may not recover from the disastrous policies of the past 7 years. General, how are you doing today?
Joe, fine, thanks.
What airline do you fly, General? You don't have to answer, General. You know what?
That's a tough question.
General, it's not really a tough question. You're just a lot smarter than I am. Next time, I'm going to be in center seats in Delta for the rest of my life. General, yesterday, General Barry McCaffrey was talking about the National Guard being crippled by this war, may not recover. Talk about how badly the situation is going for the United States Army and the Marines.
Joe, you know, that's what motivates me to continue speaking out. What's good for our nation and what is definitely best for our Army, Marine Corps, and by extension, Navy and Air Force as well. These forces are in trouble. It'll cost us several $1 billion just to repair Army equipment to what it was pre-war, pre-March 2003. This nation's not mobilized behind our great soldiers and Marines, airmen, and sailors, and their families, by the way. You know, it would take over 2 years to replace a Black Hawk helicopter shot down and destroyed in Iraq. Why is this? It's because we're not mobilized. We're not behind it. We're not paying attention. We're putting the burden of this war on our incredible military. And by the way, they're doing a hell of a job.
Well, and General, that's the point. Anytime you bring this up, people will say, well, how dare you attack our men and women in uniform? They are, without a doubt, and I'm saying this because I know a lot of guys over there. I know there are women over there. The people I know over there are guys. They're the best and the brightest. They are amazing. You talk to them about what they're doing. They don't want to talk about politics. They want to talk about getting the mission done. But at the same time, we have a responsibility, don't we, as Americans, to make sure they get what they deserve, get what they need, and actually get to come home enough so a level of readiness is not depleted.
Absolutely, Joe. That's what they expect. They are the best, and they're doing an incredible job. They're well-led. They're focused on mission. Americans can be extremely proud, but you know what? We've let them down. Our government has let them down. The Republicans for over 6 years who controlled the House and the Senate allowed the executive branch to run roughshod over everything. There's some serious accountability here.
Yeah, and of course, as a Republican who served on the Armed Services Committee back in the 1990s, we always whacked Bill Clinton for sending our troops out to too many different places, for extending the rotations longer and longer. And yet, look what's happened with my party in power over the past 7 years. The biggest problem has been they haven't stood up. Well, for 6 years, they never stood up to Don Rumsfeld, who believed you could win wars on the cheap.
You know, we've got a national policy right now that lacks focus. We're mired in Iraq, and there's bigger fish to fry out there, and our military is in trouble. And I don't think any of us should be sleeping too well at night. We ought to worry about this.
And General, one of the reasons I was against this surge was I agree with you that it was too little, too late. Let me ask you this, General. Let's say that Willie Geist is the President of the United States, God help us, and he comes to you and you are you're running the Army, and he asks you the question, General, how many troops would we really need in Iraq to lock this thing down, to bring stability to most of the provinces in and around Baghdad and across the country? How many troops would we need to do that, in addition to what we have there right now?
What I would say is that to be successful in the counterinsurgency fight, you must deny the insurgent sanctuary. So to focus only on Baghdad and ignore the rest of the country is a big mistake. You see, the enemy is asymmetric. He is not going to be where we're strong. He's going to attack us where we're weak. He has the initiative, sadly, because we've given it to him. So our numbers are too little by an order of magnitude of 2 or 3 to properly do the job in Iraq. Now, those numbers could include coalition troops, American troops, British troops, competent Iraqi security forces, which there are few. But at the end of the day, this current surge is really a minor reinforcement, and it ignores the principle that you must deny the enemy sanctuary everywhere.
Finally, General, is there any way, with the troop levels that we have, is there any way that we can be successful militarily in Iraq? Or is it time for us to figure out how to withdraw our troops?
The solution in Iraq is political and diplomatic. It's not military. We need to come to grips with that fast, and we need to understand that there are some serious implications with respect to the future readiness of our great Army and Marine Corps. I think it's time to deliberately withdraw, decide what our long-term national interests are in that region, and leave the appropriate force to accomplish that mission and get on with the larger war against worldwide Islamic extremism.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more, General. I think you're dead on. Thank you so much. I want to thank you for coming on, but more importantly, thank you for speaking out. Speaking out, again, not for any political party or any political candidates, but speaking out for the men and women on the ground that unfortunately haven't had enough people in Congress doing that over the past 6-7 years. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, boy, I'll tell you what, he nailed it. He absolutely nailed it. This is a much bigger war than just a war in Iraq, and unfortunately our troops are being denied.
Yeah. But the question is, what's the appropriate force to leave in place as you draw down?
Yeah, well, you know what? We can figure that out when we start having a serious debate about it, but nobody's talking about that right now. It's all or nothing, and it's causing us